the opportunity for us as developers to have broad, deep impact on all parts of society and all parts of the economy is everywhere. A new world that is going to be made up of an intelligent cloud and an intelligent edge. It's about celebrating what you can do with that technology to have broad impact. It's about empowering every developer.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to you all. My name is Mahir Khan of the Department of Pharmacy, and I, along with my partner Muhammad Salman Nasir, will be your host for today's event. They say all good things must come to an end. With that said in mind, I would personally like to extend a warm welcome to you all to day 4 of our bootcamp. Over the course of the last few days, it gives me great pleasure to see the enthusiasm and interest from all of you. From all around the world, our guest speakers took out their valuable and precious time to join us and enlighten us with their vast knowledge of information. Sharing with us their experience and skill, I'm sure we all got to learn a thing or two. Inshallah, in the near future, we, the MSLA team from UoL, aim at embarking many journeys ahead and hope that you all will join us and support our initiatives just like this one. To stay updated with our events, do check us at our social media platforms for more updates. So without any further ado, let us kick off the event by inviting our first guest speaker of the evening. He is Senior DevOps Engineer at MEQ Pro. He is an engineer with vast experience in the technology field, working in the implementation and management of the cloud environment IoT, its underlying computer systems and networks. Now, he is glad to be a part of the AgTech industry in South Australia, bringing the high technology to produce quality improved food. He is Microsoft Certified DevOps, Certified Engineer, and Azure Administrator. I welcome Mr. Fernando Rolnick.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm glad here for this opportunity. And today I will show about the Azure Data Factor. That is a tool from Microsoft that is democratizing the access to big data transformation, data integration. So for that, I will share my screen. Just a sec. So here is my presentation. Let me do some adjust here. Oh, good to go. So my name is Fernando Ronick. You can follow me on Twitter at Fernando Ronick and my YouTube channel, Azure Tar. Right? Who am I? I was presented. Here, the important thing is I come from infrastructure and I start to work with data recently, and I will show how is this to get along with this new technology from data, right? So our today agenda, first we talk about data, we talk about Blob, data lake, and database. What is the Azure Data Factor? Source and sink, the ETL and ELT approach, and we'll have some live demos. Let's talk about data. Today, everything we do, we generate data. When we shop, we generate data. When you communicate, we generate data. When we exercise, we generate data. And all this data is in different storage, in different formats. And to make this data useful, we need to filter this data, to tidy up this data, and to put this data like in a presentable way to generate value with this data. So for this, the data formats we have here, this screenshot is the data formats we work on the Azure Data Factory. We have here since the popular Excel or CSV, binary files, JSON, XML, and you have Parquet and these another formats that are more popular on Hadoop platform. Usually these are like a column storage, like CSV, but more optimized. Here, let's talk a little bit about the data storage. For instance, on Azure we have the Blob Storage. The Blob Storage are like object storage. These objects are like files, and we store these objects. It can be binary, it can be in any format. We have the Azure Data Lake. This data lake, there is a concept like in this data world about the data lake. There is some place you can store unstructured data, but a little bit organized. And you can search inside this data. Is when you are not sure how you create a database and how you consult this. So we start all data in a data lake. On Azure, the difference between the blob storage and the data lake is you can search. You can even better, you can carry your files. Think if you have several CSV files in one data lake, you can carry the data from a specific day, for instance. So this is really useful. We also have the SQL database. I know we had a lecture about that here. And this is a structured data storage, and you store in tables. And these tables are relational one with other, and you have the NoSQL database. In this case, in Azure, we have the Cosmos DB. But to work with Azure Data Factory, well, it's better to go with the SQL API. It's more comfortable. But these are the data stores. On the next slide, I explain finally what is Azure Data Factory. So imagine here, like in this example, we have some data on a blob in CSV, data in JSON in Google Cloud. We have in Parquet files on Amazon S3 buckets. And we use the Azure Data Factory to collect this data, prepare this data, or run this data. And we organize after we improve this data, we can store like in a SQL database or in a blob storage or in a data lake, what you want. So the Azure Data Factory is a data integration tool that orchestrates the process to collect the data and the data transformation you need and store in in a place, on the final place where the data will be better to be consumable. So moving on, here we need to have concept on Azure Data Factor. We always have a source and a sink. So imagine the Azure Data Factory as like a water treatment station that pumps the water from the source, filter the water, improve the water quality, and after that, it stores the water in a sink. I made this presentation with these examples to make it clear, like if you don't have a sink, the data factory you flood and won't work. So remember, the data factory don't store data. The data is only passing through the data factor. And here is what data factor does, is like an extract, transform, and load, or extract, load, and transform the data. I explain this in detail on the next slide. On the concept of ETL, we loaded the data like from spreadsheet here, a database here in a transformation engine. This transformation engine will be like the Azure Data Factory. We transform the data here, and after this transformation, we load this data in a target, like in a database. This process is good if you have to make experiments to see what's the best way to transform your data to get your best outcomes. This process requires, like, you don't need to know how to program, or it's not complicated, like anyone can do, especially on Azure Data Factor. That is a really complete tool. So we transform the data here, and we send to the target. The only disadvantage here is if you need to work with like big data, very big data sets, maybe this transformation engine don't have the power to do that. So in this case, we have the ELT, that stands for extract, load, transform. It's pretty much the same thing, but the transformation occurs on the database. We have some powerful database that does these transformations, for instance, Hadoop, or even SQL, Microsoft SQL can do some transformations, but in this case, we need to have someone with specific knowledge to know, for instance, Hadoop, and to program these transformations. So in the case of the big data, this is the best approach, but we need to have more some people with special skills to do that. Whereas on the ETL, it is anyone, like it's very good with Excel or with only normal data transformations can do, right? So here we are over the presentation. Now I will show what you do in my first demo. I will copy data from Google and AWS to an Azure data lake. So I will show how to create an Azure Data Factor, how to access the Azure Data Factor, how to create the data sets. We will create the first pipeline with data copy activity, with data flow activity. We copy this data from the other clouds in Azure with debug and monitoring. So let's go demo. So this is my Azure dashboard. I have the data here. I have this data set is on Google Cloud. This other data set is on Amazon. So let's do it. And what you have here in Azure, I have a storage account with a container, a data lake, container called data lake. There is nothing here. I also have a database. I use this on the next demo. So let's show how to create an Azure Data Factory. It's easy. You click here, create resource, right here, Data Factory, create. We need to choose resource group. I choose this one I created before. The region, let's choose the region I'm closest here in Australian East. Name, ADF demo wall. And click next. It asks for Git configurations. If you like to work in a Git ops and save. Every step you change the code, you can do it, but in our case, we won't use Git in our demo today. Let's tag. When you create everything in the cloud, it's good to have a tag, have a presentation, review and create. It's all good to go, create. And this you take between 30 seconds and 1 minute to complete the process. And let's check if I have questions. Question 1, how to create links service from source data storage SQL server database. Now I will show how to create datasets using the blob and the files. I create a dataset as a sink from to a SQL server database, but it's pretty much the same thing, right? You see this on the next demos, right? So it's created. Now if you go to the resource, we have here this dashboard. This dashboard shows the runs, these things, and to access the data factory, we click here in this author and monitor, and it opens the data factory like a desktop application. But my favorite way to open is to go to this URL, adf.azure.co. You go to this URL, and you choose your data factory here. You open your data factory, and this is the data factory. This space here, let's show first the buttons. Here, home, I have these shortcuts. They work to start to if you like to create something from here. We have some videos showing how to use this service. The author is the main part we use. We create everything here. We have monitor when you monitor the data. And this is the linked service and the integration runtimes we configure here. So let's start with the data sets. Let's create the data set. So we simply click here, new data set. Let's do in this order here, starting with so before I start, look the quantity of servers I can connect here. There is almost 78, almost 100 servers we can connect here to get the data, right? See, there's a lot of servers. So let's find the Google storage here. So because I copy the files and I'm not interested on the content of the files, I choose binary. Binary applies to any type of file like audio, pictures, program files. So I use binary. On the next demo, we use another type, but let's go with binary. I'll call this dataset as a binary Google. And the linked service, I install here a linked service, Google Storage. I'll leave the name as it is. I need to grab my access key and my secret. Here, let's test the connection. It's working. So now I will create the linked service. That's the interface that talks to Google to get the data. Here I choose my data set, but actually you will like all files, right? With these sale data. And here I have a data set. All good is here. Just I remember a thing, I'll turn on the data flow debug. To my next demos, I will show it to be smoothly because we need a little bit of time to turn it on, like to provision the underlying infrastructure. So let's go back and create the next data set. Will be the Amazon S3. Again, binary. And I'll call here binary AWS. Linked service, we need to connect the linked service. Here, the integration runtime, I will show later, but this auto-resolve integration runtime is the transformation engine where we run the things. This is provisioned automatically by Azure, but soon I'll show more details. And here is my secret test connection. The moment the sync I/O, I have here a question to explain the sync. I will explain the sync when I start the pipeline soon. So I'm creating here the connection. Let's find my file there. So I want all files. So star. Okay, now this first step, I have showed how to create the datasets. Let's publish. This is like to save. When you publish, I have these two datasets. So finally, we'll create the first pipeline. To create a pipeline, just click on plus, pipeline, and here we can put the name of the pipeline. It'll be demo 1. Here I have the activities. Look, I use the scope data, data flow, data explorer, functions, batch service, data bricks, data lake analytics. It is to query files on data lake. In general, we use something from here. Iteration conditionals, ADD insights. We have a wide variety of tools. So let's show how it works. So I use a copy data activity. Let's call it copy from Google. So always I need to specify a source. Here, the source dataset will be binary Google. I will only confirm this is right. So let's go back to the pipeline. And now I will explain the sync. The sync is the place I will store this data. In this case, the sync will be this data lake here on Azure. We don't have any files, so I will choose the sync. But I forgot I didn't create the sync as a dataset, but I can create here. Just click new, and my sync will be a Azure Data Lake Storage. And because this, the format will be binary in this case. And binary Azure Data Lake. And the linked service, because this linked service is hosted inside Azure, we can only select here the subscription, the storage account name, and I test the connection. And it's here. Easy, don't need passwords. I'll find the place. I will store here on this folder data lake. This folder are the container. Okay, so I have a source from Google, a sync on the binary Azure Data Lake. Mapping is disabled because I'm not doing any transformation. Any settings, I don't need to do nothing here. So our first copy data activity is ready. Let's show you the flow activity here. We can have like this wait. The role for this wait is to wait like 1 second on the seconds. So to connect the pipeline here, just drag and drop. We'll copy data from Google. We'll wait, and let's add the second copy data activity and connect here. And connect here. The second one will be copy data from AWS. The source is configured is the source binary on AWS. Just check if it's correct. It's correct, right? This is important. I forgot void cutting file path because I would like all files and the same thing from Google. Let's make this better. The same thing from Google. I need to configure this. And now on AWS, I need to configure the sync. The sync will be the Azure Data Lake. Just check if, okay, it's right. So the data lake. So all good here. Before I publish this, we can we can validate before publish, but it does the same thing. There is no errors. The validation is to see if you have some error. I will publish here to save. And I show here a thing about the debug. If you like to debug, we have this ball here. If you debug here, it will execute to this ball and you go next. But in this case, I would like to run this pipeline, the whole pipeline. So I will show the triggers. I can trigger now. I'll do it in a second, and I will show the triggers. You can trigger like in a schedule. You can say like to trigger every X minutes, days, or in a specific time. Or this tumbling window is pretty much like a schedule, but the most interesting is event. Imagine like if I have a source that is on Azure, this source is on Azure is like, it can be like our data lake. If I have like a file that is I have a new file in the data lake, it can trigger this pipeline. But now, for the sake of this demo, I will only show trigger now, and I hope that works. Trigger now. When you trigger it, okay, it's running. Now that's running, I use this to show the monitor, and here is in progress. If you click again, you get like more details, and it's done. But it shows here, if you click these glasses, you'll see like it took like 5 seconds to copy from Google to the data lake, 2 seconds waiting, and here 4 seconds copy from AWS to the Azure data lake. Let's go to our data lake and refresh. Oh, our files are here. We have both files. So our first demo was successful, right? So now let's go back to my presentation. And we will have the demo 2. On this demo 2, we will copy file from the data lake to an Azure Tco table. So this will be a simple copy activity. I'll put the data here on this database. I have this table already created. If we select this table, you see we have only the rows defined, but we don't have data here, right? So this will be quick. Let's go here to our data factor, and let's create a new pipeline. I'll call this as demo 2, and copy data to be like copy data lake to SQL source. So here now I can't use the binary source because I need to read the data set inside the data set. So I'll create a new data source, and the data source will be the data lake, and the format will be CSV. The delimited text is what I have. The delimited text data lake. The linked serves. I create here new linked serves, and actually I can use the same linked serves because there is the same data lake, right? So I choose one of these files. I can use both. This is a very important thing. First row as a reader, we have to use this to guide the data factor. What are the columns? So for the first column as header, it's good. So the thing here, list of files. No, I would like all files. So let's put this star here on my source. It's all good. One thing that is interesting, we have this filter by last modified. Use this, like if you have data feed every day, and we don't need to reprocess the data from the previous day. So we can do like using as a dynamic content to get data from the latest day, but I'll skip this from this demo, right? Now we have the sync part. I have a question. What's the Azure Data Lake and Azure Data Warehouse? This is a good one. I will answer in a second. Let's do it. And the sync will be an Azure SQL database. So this is answered like my first question, how to create a linked service from a data source store which is a SQL Server database. So I'm answering this question. So just select here database. I will leave this name, Azure SQL table, and I create a new linked service. It will like my subscription, my database. I already have here. Database name is this demo. And now I need to get my username and password for the database. We'll test here the connection. Okay, so the service is created. We'll select that that table name here. It has the schema. Okay, and I don't need to do nothing here. Mapping. So this is an important thing we have to do here. The mapping. We need to specify the data types and the source and the destination, but like I can change, and I need to make it match with my database. So let me turn off this. So this invoice number is varchar is a string. I keep that. Stock code is the same thing. Description is a string. Quantity is integer. So here we need to put here integer 32. Invoice date is date time. Unit price is a float there. Here will be a double. Customer ID is an integer. Country is a string. Sales amount, it will be a float. So here you'll be double. Right. So let's check varchar string int date time. Float, integer, varchar, float. Okay, it's all right. Settings I don't need, user properties, okay, so it's good. Let's publish. It's published, it's saving. And now let's trigger it now. And it's running. Let's go to monitoring to see. I hope this works. I hope this works. So, oh, it succeeded. Let's check if it have worked. So let's run again this select here. And look, now I fit the database. But look, this is the same file I have here on my data lake without any transformation. Like exactly the same columns I have here, I have now here on the database, right? So, oh, I lost my connection here. So I didn't perform any transformation. So now I will show you. So I think let's check the questions. So I think the sync was clear, the SQL was clear. Okay, the difference between data lake, data warehouse, I will leave from the end. And which data factor version do I use to create data flows? What should I prefer? So the data factor V2 is this data factor we are using here. that are more like GLE. You can like drag and drop the things. But for instance, if you look our pipeline, it's a code here. There is a code. The data factor V1 is only the code. On the data factor V2, we have this interface here. We don't need to be like a software developer. We can have some knowledge from data and work with IT. You can use that. This is really easy, right? So now I will show the third demo. The third demo is you show the real power from the Azure Data Factor. We use the data flow transformation to, they are asking about Azure Tara. I will explain Azure Tara, but let's go here. So let's show the data flow transformation. And I create a new column on the database, and I create the I create a different data based on the data we already have, right? So let's do it. This will be the best demo. Let's call demo 3. Yeah, can I pass parameters to a pipeline run? Yes, you can configure everything as a parameters. Let's show this as a demo 3. This is a data flow. You only add here a data flow, create a data flow, and it opens a new interface. So the data flow belongs to the pipeline. Here on the pipeline, you will see the underlying computing we are using. I'm already running using the Dataflow debug, but when you run, you deploy this infrastructure and you run. And then the Dataflow is the same thing. We have a source. We have a source here. And this source here, let's choose the data set. We use the limit test data lake. Is these files we have in the data lake. The source option will be all files on the data lake. And now look at this. I can modify the data, like I can make joins. I don't want to do a join, but just to show, like in the database, I have all options to do joins. I can do like in conditional splits, exist. I can do a derived column, and I can add a sync. The sync, we have to do a sync, but what we do in this demo will be a derived column. That's easy. This derived column, I create one, let's call like a tax, to add a tax here. So you remember on our data set, we have the sales amount. So here I have a lot of functions, and multiply here. The first expression will be sales amount. It's auto-completed. And let's multiply by 0.1. And OK. I just remember I forgot a thing on source that's very important. We need to do a thing that's called projection. The projections is where you define the data type. So here I define as invoice number integer, stock code string, description string, quantity integer, invoice date here, unit price, it will be a double, customer ID will be integer, country is a string, sales amount is a double, and now I just remember that because that here I got now a red thing here, now it's good. So we have that, and now add the sync. The sync here, you create a new table. We don't have here in the database. If you see here the tables, we don't have, we have only this sales data. So let's go here and create the new data set. I will call a table, no, it will be a new one. So look, now I have less options to connect because this data flow only works with these options, right? So the Azure Tco will be the sync. I will call 2. I have the connection already, but here I have option create a new table. Let's call DBO tax with tax. Remember that? How good. What I have here, settings. So I can control, like, if I only set and if I can update the fields. The mapping, I'm doing auto mapping. I'll turn off to show you, but the tax is already here. Let's do in this way. I think it's everything good to go. So because I would like to run it quickly, I run this using the debug. To run the debug, you don't need to publish because you are like only testing. So I debug it here. Wait a little bit for the debug. The big difference here between the debug and the trigger, if you debug, you need to wait like 3 or 4 minutes to deploy the infrastructure, and you pay like a couple cents to do the transformation because it will be only a second. And what's going on here is the data factory is using Spark under the hood and is loading the data from the source in random access memory, is transforming this data, preparing this new derived column. And after that, it's saving on the sink. And you don't need to know Spark and nothing. This is very easy. It's running. And you can see also the debug running here, waiting a little bit. This screen is very cool. We show what is going on. While this is running, let's answer the questions, right? Okay, what's Azure Tar? Azure Tar is a blog and a YouTube channel. And here in Azure Tar, this is an open space to who wants to share information about technologies focused to Azure, Microsoft technologies. And we are here to mentor and to guide you. If you would like to stay here like me, making videos, writing blogs, let's send me a message on Twitter. I'm mentored by George. Thanks a lot to be here. I'm feeling great. I always was wishing to speak in public and to share my passion for technology. Now I'm here, and the same way I got here. If you like to stay here, send a message on Twitter and let's talk. Let's do some video. I'll help you to write an article to start to do videos. Let's see if it worked. At the end, I will share the link again. So it looks like this worked. Look at this dashboard, how it's cool. I see how the transformation has occurred. And the most important thing, let's go to the database and reload here the tables. Now I have this table with text I created. Select the rows and let's see if it have worked. I have here tax, remember, 0.1 times that. And we got the text, we made the data flow transformation, and I'm glad because our demos have worked. Now I will answer question by question for you guys. So let's open here my presentation here while I'm answering the questions, right? So let's see here the questions. Okay, this is a good one. What's the difference between Azure Data Lake and Azure Data Warehouse? So the data warehouse is a place when you put the data together to make analysis and to get some insights about your data. Whereas the data lake is a place like you are generating a lot of data and you don't know how you can get value from this data, but you have this data and we start to store this data. You will start to store this data, this like no structured data in like an organized way, and you can carry this data. We can start to play with this data to see if you find this data useful. Whereas the Azure Data Warehouse is a tool, we have all data organized, and you are running like a Power BI dashboards, and you are running BI analysis to take some advantage from this data to see if you can get value from this data. And another thing, this Azure Data Warehouse now is called a Synapses, right? There is a new name. I hope I answered this question. Parameters to run the pipeline. I think I can go back here to show everything here on the pipeline can be parameterized. Like you can put like some parameters, and for instance here I don't have parameters, but we can create parameters. I don't know if I can show it here. Now, for instance, in this parameter here, I can use like in this settings, but we can use parameters, and even, for instance, one parameter I know here on settings, if you like to scale this dynamically, you can run this as a parameter, but you can build like one pipeline, and we can leave like room for parameters to reuse the same pipeline several times. What's more, is there any supported regions for data flow? So not all regions support data flow, but if you see here on the portal, if we start here to create a new data factor, let's create here. So the region. So we have a plenty of regions. I think it's not all regions, but like Brazil, Australia, United States, Asia, France, Europe. We have a plenty of regions to run. Explain what's Blob Storage on Azure. Okay, Blob Storage is, let's show here. Blob Storage is pretty much object storage. Think object is a file, for instance, this CSV file, but here I can have, this is a data lake, but this is like an storage. I can upload here any file I want. Here, for instance, if I go here to desktop, I will upload this image, upload, and I have an object. And you can have in a container as many objects you want. There is constraints about like 5 terabytes. You can have something like 5 gigabytes per file, the maximum per object. The Blob Storage is like a file store. In the same way you have like a Dropbox or a Google Drive, we have this, but this is for the Microsoft Cloud, and you have another advanced resource, like you can use this to store like a static website. We can generate like shared access, shared signature links to allow like temporary access to the files. We have a plenty of resource. So there is another question. So if there is no other questions, I will only ask you guys to follow us on, follow us on Twitter, Azure at Azure Tar. Follow me on Twitter as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Azure Tar. We have a lot of videos. I will publish some next week, some videos about Azure Data Factory to allow you to follow along and try these demos. We have videos about Kubernetes, IoT, Terraform, Windows subsystem for Linux, that's very good. Docker, it's awesome. And if you would like to start to make videos, start to participating with us, talk to me on Twitter, send a DM. It will be a pleasure to have us. And thank you very much for this space, this opportunity to speak for all of us.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and I'm sure everyone got a lot of insight on it.
All right, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure everyone learned a lot, and it was quite insightful, the detail, and I'm sure your experience has taught everyone a lot today. Thank you, personally.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the MLSA, I, Mahir Khan, bid you a farewell. Signing off, and over to you, Salman.
Thank you very much, Mahir. Hello and welcome again to Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing BootCamp presented by Microsoft Student Partners of University of Lahore. My name is Mohammad Salman Nasir and I will be your host for the rest of the day. So, without further ado, let's call our second, a very special guest, Mr. Hamid Sadebur Saleh. Mr. Hamid Sadepur Saleh is a Microsoft MVP in Cloud and Data Center Management and Microsoft Certified Trainer, Microsoft Azure Architect, as well as a System Administrator with an Engineer's degree in Information Technology with more than 6 years of experience in Windows Server and Cloud Infrastructure Administration. Solid knowledge and work experience in TCP/IP routing protocols, LAN and WAN with Cisco routers, switches, UTM firewalls, and load balancers, including configuration, maintenance, and traffic monitoring. Over to you, Mr. Saleh.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining again and glad to see you all today. I'm going to share my desktop. Okay, following yesterday's topic about Azure Cloud in general, and also the cloud itself in general. Today, we are going a bit more into the detail of a service called Azure Migration Service. So before we are diving into the topic directly, I want to quickly go over the yesterday's topic and just quickly as a remember what we had yesterday, which topics we went through. So yesterday's topic was about totally about public and private clouds, what Azure exactly does for us in today's public market in the industry, and what is the differences between private and public cloud. Also, we went through infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and the examples which are related into these categories. So about yesterday's topics, if there are any questions, you can feel free to write, and we will also went through all the questions again. So for those who are attended today and didn't have time to join yesterday, so I'm going to introduce myself again for those who new. Currently, I'm working as Microsoft Solutions consultant for All4One, so I'm doing the presentation also on behalf of the All4One group and the community. So my name is Hamid Sadepur Saleh. It's nearly 4 years I'm working as Microsoft Certified Trainer, mostly in Exchange, Windows Server, and cloud technologies in Azure, and also Office 365, and also Microsoft MVP since 2019 in cloud and data center management. And you can easily access my blog and connect over LinkedIn. Yesterday, I realized that in the chat was asking about my contact information. Here is my email address, which also my blog address here, and also my Outlook email address. I'm totally reachable, and any questions you got about today and yesterday's presentation, and in the general, you can write me, feel free, and I will be always available. So what we are having today with Azure Migration Service. Let's start. I will try to start in two different ways in order to make it totally clear at the end of our session. Let's imagine that we are together having a data center. I'm working as a technician in that data center, and we have administrators, we have developers, we have database administrators, and all the structured organization that we are trying to do our best in order to reduce our downtime, reduce our costs, reduce our daily tasks and checklists, server maintenances. And this is all our main responsibility, and everyone has that responsibility, and everyone also has to do it in a great way in order to complete the daily task in which position that working. So the example that earlier we talked about is a pure example of having a private cloud. So in private cloud, all the things that we mentioned here, these are all the responsibilities related to a private cloud. So let's come to Microsoft Azure Migration Service. What does the service exactly provide to us? Now, we together decided to let's move to cloud. The current data center we are having here, we decided to totally 100% move our all stuff to cloud. So here, Microsoft Azure Migration Service comes into play and provides us with the tools, with the features, and everything that an administrator needs in order to migrate and move your data, servers, databases, and everything into the cloud. So in our today's agenda, we will move through what is Azure migration in general. We'll talk about the main definition of the service and the main goal of the service, and then we will go through advantages for customers. For example, me as a customer, you as a customer want to use the service in order to publish your services to the cloud. Doesn't matter which service that you are having in your own local data center. And then we will go through Azure TCO, total cost of ownership, and some examples about that. So what TCO provides to us is yesterday we just went through it in a very resulted manner, but today we will go deep into detail of this definition and the service that Azure provides us about TCO. So about saving the costs and in a long-term plan for your data center and for your infrastructure. And then we will go through about Azure AHUB, hybrid use benefits, scenarios, what exactly this feature provides to us also, and what's the purpose of Microsoft in order to provide this service beside using Azure Migration Service. And then we will go through about advantages for Microsoft partners and who are working with Microsoft partners as an FTE, full-time employee, as a partner, as an intern. So those people also, I mean, having some access to good resources, having hands-on experience, having working with a productive environment. So these are all good stuff when you're working with a Microsoft partner, and that partner provides you with lots of projects. Doesn't matter Azure Migration Service or other services in the environment. And in the last step, we will check about all the tools and assessment tools that are available to us from Microsoft Azure in order to assess our current infrastructure in order to make it easily to move to the cloud. So before going to the next slide, I want to explain about this 4-step. So always all the steps that we are doing when moving to Azure, main thing that firstly we must do is planning correctly without any error when we are going to move to the to a public cloud in Azure. So planning means that check which resources you're going to move to the cloud, how is your current configuration in your resources. For example, how many RAMs for each virtual machine, for each your database servers using, and what will you use when you're going to Azure. So these are all important things to have a really precise and exact plan when planning to move to Azure. And after that, your replication plan, you really need to have a stable connectivity and a proper bandwidth in order to make it replicated to the Azure cloud. So before you're doing your productive environment, you need to test all your systems having making sure that are compatible in order to move to Microsoft Azure cloud. So this is really important. I mean, not only using Microsoft Azure migration service for testing purposes. In every services that you're going to do, I mean, maybe just a little bit advice is that before doing everything, just test it for 3-4 times. It's really important. I mean, move your project through 4 or 3 test steps. Laboratories environment in order to make sure all your errors are going down, and after in the productive environment you're having a 0% error. And so in the last step, we will trigger migrating your resources to public cloud with the tools and features that we will have in step 6. So let's start. What is Azure migration in general, and what's the main definition? I will go through the texts here, and then we will go into the detail of each paragraph here. Azure Migrate is a tool from Microsoft that helps you to move your on-premises infrastructure workloads using a centralized portal. So what is the centralized portal? It is portal.azure.com, the main link which you can access your environment in public cloud in Microsoft Azure, and all the resources that you are already keeping there in Microsoft Azure before moving your on-premises. So managing everything from a centralized portal allows you to track, discover, assess, and migrate easily to there. It's not like that you need to configure so many services in so many points, in so many environments. With just using that centralized environment and the tool which Microsoft Azure will provide you in order to install in your environment, in order to access your environment and push them to the cloud. So it really makes it easy in order to decrease your workload of doing the migration to the cloud itself. So which workloads that are currently available to move to Microsoft Azure from your on-premise infrastructure? All your servers which are based in Hyper-V, hypervisor, or in VMware, it doesn't matter. You can move both of your virtual machines, which are based on VMware and Hyper-V, totally to Microsoft Azure. So which ones you want to move, that you will just choose with the proper tool that are provided again with Microsoft Azure from your environment, and just pushing them to Microsoft Azure Cloud. And the databases that you're currently having in your environment, web applications that are running and you're providing currently in your environment, So these are just the resources and the workloads that you can move them currently to Microsoft Azure. Virtual desktops, I mean VDIs, data, I mean which type of data that you're keeping currently in your environment, totally allowed to use with the proper tool. So let's divide these, I mean, not to confuse about that you're just having one tool in order to push all these resources to Microsoft Azure. For each resource, for each workload that you're currently having in your environment, each resource has its own tool from Microsoft Azure in order to push them to the cloud. So each resource has its own migration tool. So this is our next slide, second part. This is here we are going a bit into the detail of. Let's again come back to the on-prem data center, our on-prem data center, which we were working together in there, and everyone responsible for something. Everyone was checking everything from another portals for monitoring each service. You need to use some other application, monitoring applications. For configuration, you need to call someone or assigning tickets to other department. So here I used a little sticker that all your VMs goes into all your stuff, and not actually the VM that I wrote here. All goes into the stuff, goes into a pipe, and it goes through a centralized portal, which we talked earlier about that, and you manage everything from a single portal. You're monitoring your costs, your subscriptions, VMs, databases, errors, events, logs, and everything that you're currently available to use on there. So while we are here in this step, it's also good to mention that yesterday we went through CapEx and OpEx definitions. So for those which this topic is not clear yet, we are going to have another example about that. Imagine in our data center currently we're working together. We are having monthly payments to bandwidth, internet, electricity, cooling stuff, renting the place, paying for the rent, the place we are keeping, maintaining our environment, the staff that we are having in order to maintain our environment and provide 24 hours of 7 days a week support for our data center in order to not to encounter more downtimes in our environment. So these are all lead a company, an environment to having costs. But with Azure, when you decide, when you plan to move to Azure, you are sure that all the costs that I mentioned recently will be cut totally. And you're going just to pay for for example, for the virtual machine that you're going to use. You're just going to pay for that virtual machine, the license that you use. And if you already have license, you're also just going to pay for that virtual machine itself. We will talk in the next slides that with AHUB that you are able to move your current license from your environment licenses for your virtual machines and databases to the cloud. So this is that's going really to be helpful in a long time plan. For example, in next 5 years, in next 10 years, it's going to up for the company nearly more than 60% or 70% of costs. This is what we are currently, I mean, in daily stuff, we are seeing that all the tendency, all the requests from most of the companies from small to mid to enterprise size decides to go to Microsoft Azure in order to save more costs. Yes, because it's really affordable to when you decide to keep your stuff in the cloud. It gives us an exact and precise information report about the resource usage on each your servers in your infrastructure, which will lead at the end saving in more resource usage. What does it exactly mean? Imagine that you're having, let's start just with the virtual machine, Windows virtual machine, a server that you're having with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 8 cores of CPU with a web server running on it. And this service, web server, just using 4 gigabytes of RAM and 1 core of CPU. And what's going to happen to the rest? What's going to happen to the other configuration, the resources that we're having on that server? So it's a loss. So if we are not going to use that resource in our virtual machine, in our database, so why should I configure 16 gigabytes of RAM and 8 cores of CPU? It's really very important when you're managing a data center, when you're a director in a data center, 1 core of CPU or 1 gigabytes of RAM, it matters to you. So you need to keep all of them really, managed and improve performance and decrease the resources that are using by monitoring them exactly in detail. So this is what Azure provides with the tools inside it to the administrator and the manager which wants to decrease the resource usage and improve performance with exact monitoring, which in the slide that we can see with exact and precise information report, you can achieve this. At the end, so for sure it will lead us to saving costs. So let's imagine this is the exact, the example that I've said earlier. So Azure Migration will help you to identify the right solution, the right resources for each of your currently running services when migrating to the cloud. So maybe 50%, and for sure more than 50%, it will help you to have savings in your spendings. So what's advantage? We already went through some of advantages. I mean, most of the advantages that when you move to Azure Cloud. So let's we will in the next slides we will go more into the detail of this service. I need to turn on my laser here. Okay. What's about hybrid benefit, and how do I qualify and how do I activate this benefit, and can I apply it retroactively? So let's talk about them in a result. That's a benefit allows you to migrate to cloud at big savings. You save up to 40% on Windows Server virtual machines by paying base compute rates. So this is what AHUB provides to you. If you're going to have software assurance in here, how do I qualify? It says you need active software assurance on your on-premises Windows Server licenses. So what is that? When you're paying for a license from Microsoft for your environment, for a resource, virtual machine or Windows Server licenses. So at the first step, you can have software assurance on your license, and it provides you extra support and updates with software assurance you're having. So for example, today or tomorrow, if you want to move and migrate the same resource to public cloud, to Azure, it will help you with software assurance to use the current, the same license when you're moving to, and it will keep this license, and you will pay just for base compute rates. It means just paying for 4 gigabytes of RAM with 2 cores of CPU. So you're deploying a new virtual machine in minutes, sometimes less than a minute, using Azure Marketplace Images, upload a custom virtual machine. free migration with Azure Site Recovery. So you are allowed to use your custom virtual machine, image, using Azure Marketplace images. So you could able to continue all these steps in order to achieve using AHUB in order to activate this benefit. You can retag your existing VMs in Azure with this benefit by using the retroactive tagging feature and save more money. Yes, for sure, you will save up to 40%, or in highly scaled environments, you will save more than 50% in your environment, while it comes to the day that you're going to migrate to Microsoft Azure. So in short, there is a confluence of migration triggers catalysts, including outsourced data center contract expiration, integrating acquisitions, urgent capacity needs, software and hardware refresh, end of support, security threats, and compliance, like GDPR for European nation, and every country having their privacy policy about data compliance, and a need to deliver applications faster. So it means whenever you need support, in just less than a minute, Microsoft engineers and experts immediately calls you, what's happening to your, what's the problem, what's the current situation, how can I assist you? So this is the main support that you're getting from Microsoft Azure, and for sure then you will decrease your on-premise support team. So all the security maintenance and threats that you can make sure all maintained again by Microsoft itself. Urgent capacity needs. Anything you need immediately, you can go open your virtual machine, decrease, increase, or make it dynamically decrease, increase. So this is also one of the great features that you can achieve with migrating to Microsoft Azure Public Cloud. So here in this map also we can see the same in graphical, all the text here in graphical data, the data center contracts expiry. You don't worry about that anymore. Quickly integrate acquisitions, urgent capacity needs, which we talked earlier about that here. Software and hardware refresh, all maintenance by Microsoft, and you are going to also decrease your the stuff that you were worried about before, about your hardware in your data center. What will happen if I got power outage? What will happen if my cooling system will not work anymore for just for 1 hour? It can cause fire in your data center. It can cause, service outage for sure. So you are not worrying about that, and you're just decreasing also your worriness in the future, maybe up to 90% beside the cost that you're going to save. And the security threats or compromised systems also maintained with Microsoft compliance, GDPR, CCPA, also all provided and maintained with Microsoft. Application innovation, delivering apps faster. Totally, if you're a developer also, it's a good environment in order to feel flexibility in there. Also, software end and support for Windows Server, VMware, and SQL servers that you're going to migrate and keep them in the cloud. So, very important topic in our slides. Also in the plannings that when you're going to have when you're moving to Microsoft Azure. So what is exactly total cost of ownership, Azure TCO? I will try to also open Azure TCO in a browser of mine in order to show you example here. Okay, let's go through our slide and then we will go to a live session here with Azure Tco Calculator. So what exactly is this? Estimating the cost savings you can realize by migrating your workloads to Azure. So with Tco Calculating, you can have a detailed information, which also provided by Microsoft. When you provide to Microsoft, okay, this is my current infrastructure. I have 5,000 Windows servers. I have Linux servers. I have 2,000 databases and these storage and these data. And with Tco Calculator from Microsoft, it gives you an exact information like this report. It says, okay, you have 15 terabytes of outbound bandwidth. You have 500 Windows, VMware 8 core, 16 gigabytes of RAM, Windows machines, Linux machines, 500 on VMware again with 8 cores and 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you have storage in your environment 60 terabytes and with accessibility of 100%. So TCO is the comparison study of moving your entire infrastructure to Azure in a financial perspective with our on-premise use in the 6-year scenario. Why it's 6-year scenario? So because it wants to make you sure that in a long-term plan. Why I'm keeping repeating long-term plan? Because it's really affordable when you are having a long-term plan with Microsoft Azure. If you plan to keep your whole infrastructure like 500 of Windows machines, 500 of Linux machines with 60 terabytes of disk on SAN. So storage area network, which is the over SCSI, networking and for enterprise enterprise places. So this is very affordable if you're going to have a 10-year contract with Azure in order to keep your resources in there. So let's go to the next slide, and then I will show the example Tco Calculator in Microsoft website. Okay, here we got a report from Microsoft with all the information previously we gave to Microsoft, and it gives us a graph with some reports on it. So we can see if we're going to keep our resources on premise for next 1, 2, and 3 years, our cost will increase from $5,000 to $25,000. So with Azure, by the way, this is a real report that I've got from Azure for an infrastructure. With Azure, if you're going to keep the same resources, you're going to have saving from nearly $2,000 up to $6,000 in next 3 years. So this is a plan just for next 3 years that you're going to save more than $22,000. So imagine if you have 10 years contract with Microsoft, and imagine all the stuff that we talked earlier about that. Electricity, bandwidth, hardware maintenance, staff, departments, shift workers, and everything. So comparing all this stuff we talked earlier to just with this graph, so we can have an easily brief that what exactly Azure does for us and for the infrastructure we are having currently. So for compute that we are having currently, the direct cost like that, 5,200. So for 1 year reserved VM, it's going to be 7,800. So for 3 years, it's nearly $5,000. So imagine as your contract increases with Microsoft Azure to keeping your stuff in there, so your price also goes down. This is what exactly I wanted to say in details. So total compute cost over 3 years, here we have $19,600. So the same one here with Azure is $5,000, which we also got here. So estimated savings that we are having with Microsoft Azure, it's in the previous slides, we saw 50%, 60%, but here with an exact calculation, we can see that we are having 78% of saving in 3 years with Microsoft Azure. Nearly $20,000. It's a huge amount of loss, huge amount of cost for a company in next 3 years. Maybe 3 years will pass in a quickly. I mean, in a quickly matter, but it's really important cost that we are going to save when moving to Microsoft Azure. I will also show here. And directly move to Azure.Microsoft pricing TCO calculator, and just by typing in Google Microsoft Azure TCO calculator, you can see here. So you're providing all your workload here, servers, adding your server workload, your databases, your storage, your networking, amount of network bandwidth you currently consume in your on-premise environment based on gigabytes monthly or terabytes. It depends, and it differs from data center to data center. So after that, you're coming to adjusting assumptions that we are having here. Adjusting all the stuff, all the details here. After that, it gives you a report like exactly we are having here, an exact report that how much in next 5 years, in next 10 years, in next 15 or 3 years that you're going to save. So this is all what Azure TCO called about, and how it helps you to realize your long-term plan, and with an exact report that you can achieve and decide correctly to move to Azure or not to move to Azure. Okay, I will try to check for questions before moving quickly. Can I migrate Active Directory DC using Azure Migrate? You can migrate, yes, but my advice is why migrating your DCs there. You can directly use Azure AD with Azure and just synchronize with AD sync. So you can either keep your Active Directory in Azure AD and keep your Active Directory on premise. Keep them either synchronized or just in the cloud with Microsoft Azure AD, and use all your Active Directory services and all the related features in there. So we have a question from yesterday's topic. As an infrastructure as a service, what are the resources that are provided by it? If you mean exactly, if you're going to have a service from Microsoft Azure or other public cloud providers, so in infrastructure as a service, you are responsible for nearly 40% of the resource that you're going to have, that you're going to purchase. It's not like O365 services that you're like end user. So if you're going a virtual machine, so you're responsible for that virtual machine. You're responsible for securing that virtual machine, for the databases, for the web application inside that. So this is the differences that when you're going to have a service that is surrounded inside infrastructure as a service, that is called a service inside infrastructure as a service. Can I do agentless migration of? Can I do agentless migration of Uefi VMs to Azure Gen 2? So not exactly, I'm into not remembering this detail, but when you're using the tool of assessing your infrastructure to moving them to Azure, it will already give you an exact report, all the warnings and the errors inside it, that which VMs you are qualified in order to migrate to Microsoft Azure or which VMs are not. For example, using Azure Generation 2 machines or Uefi or legacy booting VMs. So all of them are reported when you're using the assessing tools. All the tools will be checked at the end of this slide, so you can also look at them in on the internet, and also you can download it. It's free. You can download it, having a laboratory with them, with the documentations in Microsoft Docs. With Azure, you can totally use these services in your laboratory environment. Hybrid cloud. There is a question called, sir, can you explain again the hybrid cloud with some daily life examples? Okay, let's imagine, I mean, in daily life examples, with the services that we are currently using in our I mean mobile applications on the internet, we can't see for now what they are using on the background, or they're using hybrid in cloud and on premise. For sure, enterprises mostly having a hybrid connection on the cloud and on premises. And that is the main reason of doing this is increasing uptime and decreasing downtime as much as they can, as much as we can, having the resources in the cloud. So an example of hybrid cloud could be the previous question about Active Directory Azure AD. When you're having Active Directory environment on your on-prem, and you are going to use the same service, and when you are going to use the same service with Microsoft Azure AD, you're just installing the tool with AD Sync, and you're just pushing all the information from your on-prem, your users, group, objects, OUs to Microsoft Azure AD. And then after that, you're managing all your stuff with Microsoft Azure AD in the cloud. So this could be a hybrid cloud example, live example. The other one could be Exchange hybrid, that we are dealing in everyday stuff. Exchange hybrid is also an example like Azure AD and with Active Directory local. You're having Exchange online with Microsoft Office 365, and you're having on-prem Exchange 2013, 16, 19 version running in your environment, and these are totally synchronized. Or if you're going to have outage on your on-prem, with your on-prem infrastructure, all your mails will be routed in the cloud. So you are not facing any service outage. I mean, your users or clients will not realize that your data center collapsed in on-prem, in on-premise. So this is daily life example that could that we can call it. Okay, let's back to our slides before the time run. You can also write questions, and we can check them at the end. We're nearly in the half of our slide. Okay, another interesting topic which provided with Azure Azure hybrid use benefits scenario. So Azure hybrid benefit is available for customers having eligible SQL servers or Windows Server licenses, which are covered by software assurance. Because of the time limit that we are having here, but my advice is please note down all the all the interesting and the services or the definition like software assurance, and search for them on Microsoft Docs on the Google, and study about them. But because we are having a little bit in detail covering all this stuff here with a limited time. And when the customer having eligible SQL Server and Windows Server covered by software assurance or the equivalent qualifying subscription licenses, so you are qualified, as we check in the previous licenses, you are qualified to use the service to deploy with AHUB. Coming back to current one. So what is save up to 40%? So let's imagine if your annual cost without Azure Hybrid use benefit is $3,000. With using, if you're having software assurance in your environment, with using AHUB, it decreases to 1,777. This is a sample, a clear example that we can see how it helps us in order to again and again and again, beside all the savings we are having step by step. It's like a stair that in each stair you are having 40% saving here, 50% saving here, 78% saving in my next 3 years. And this is also one of good examples that you can count with migrating to Microsoft Azure. So here, a good example also, we can see if you're having a machine here with AHUB paying monthly $142. 1 year upfront, you're paying $82. With a contract of 3 years upfront, it's $52. So here we are a good witness of how it helps us to saving also in licensing when moving to Azure and just paying for computing resources. Also, the software is available in all Azure cloud regions without any exceptions. It's a pricing offer that helps you maximize the value of existing on-premise Windows Server and SQL Server license investment while you're migrating to Azure. So what it could be an example for this sentence. Imagine you're having a service that needs needs to have 16 gigabytes of RAM with 8 cores of CPU, and it's going to use nearly 90% of that resource. And you're counting, you are calculating all the loss and costs in next 3 years, in next 5 years, and you realize that yes, you're going to have a good save. Why not then having a highly configured machine with 32 gigabytes of RAM and 16 gigabytes of core? Because you're saving in there, then you can pay for good resources and use a good resource for your virtual machines if it's really needed to be used. So that's also another bonus that we got from here for our infrastructure. So with it, eligible customers pay a reduced rate on Azure virtual machines infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. So regarding to the previous question, we can see here also another example of infrastructure as a service. Example like Azure Virtual Machines, or a reduced rate on Azure SQL database. Also another example of platform as a service, an SQL server on Azure Virtual Machines. We're moving to our next slide. Yes, I think something happened with my slide, and because I had options here and it's removed, but no problem, I remember. So what is the advantage for a partner when doing such projects with Microsoft and getting a customer and moving to the cloud? Okay, I got my slide. Great. So as a Microsoft partner, the company itself doing all the portfolio assessment on behalf of the customer, doing all TCO analysis, doing all security requirements that are required for your infrastructure as a service services inside that IaaS, and application dependency mapping. So as a partner, gold partner, silver partner, you are responsible to do all this stuff. So at the end, customer and you having another contract in order to establish this connection from Microsoft data center to from on-premise data center to Microsoft data center to Microsoft Azure public cloud. So you are doing all the migration, creating Azure environment, replicating ASR, POC, integrate application and networks, and in all the user-related things, and the site recovery options, all the stuff related, all the tasks related to migration. So here, what I'm thinking about that it's a really a good experience to having hands-on experience here and do all the migrations. For me, it's really exciting to do from 0 to 100% all the projects, from assessing to migration, and then managing for all billing, for providing support before the case goes to Microsoft, and also you're responsible for monitoring the stuff that are also in Microsoft Azure. So for those who are also working as a colleague, full-time employee, intern, or part-time with a Microsoft partner that are also having access to very usable and featureable documents, going to gain good experience, having access to courses, they can require exam vouchers for any courses related to Microsoft Azure, Office 365, or other Microsoft certifications. So this could be also, this is also one of the main advantages that the Microsoft partner and the employees with Microsoft partner gaining. And after all, you're having a good trust relationship with Microsoft, and so it's also good to have anytime that you need support, access to resources, getting documentations to the exact one that you're having facing problem with. Okay, so let's come to our last slide, and after that we will move to Q&A, questions and answers. So let's see that as we talk earlier about that each resource that we're going to migrate to Microsoft Azure has its own migration tool. So the first one that we're going through is Map Toolkit, or Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. Is a free inventory assessment and reporting tool that helps you to assess your current IT infrastructure and determine the right Microsoft technologies for IT needs in Microsoft Azure. So this is really very, very important to using the right tool with when you're planning to transfer your data center to a public cloud, because in each step of migrating your information, your data, which are really vital to you, it's very important to choose the right one. So with using and the experience that I gained with using these tools, I can assure that I didn't face any problems before with the tools that I used before, and I'm really getting good reported in detail. That, as it mentioned here, all about your inventory, assessing, reporting about your IT infrastructure, and also determining the right Microsoft technologies for your IT needs. A good example that we have earlier and we spoke about is that if you're using a machine with 8 gigabytes of RAM on it and four cores of CPU on it, with a web server running, a web application running on it, but your machine just using 20% of it. So this with toolkit here, that you're able to have a determining the right technology for you in order to decrease your resource usage. So it's really very important to choose the right tool when deciding to move to a public cloud, such as Azure. Azure Migrate started out as a VMware Sphere specific migration tool, but has evolved into the migration tool, and it covers now all the technologies. For assessing for all of Azure to migrate any workload to the Azure cloud, from VMware to Hyper-V, and each technology that you're running in your VMware running in your environment, it can assess and got report for you. And coming to the second option, RV Tools is a VMware utility that connects to your vCenter server and captures every bit of information about your virtual machines and your ESXi hosts that you would want to know. So for those who are not familiar with ESXi host, is a technology from VMware that is a hypervisor, actually like Hyper-V, but in an enterprise version that you're building in a server, and then connecting with a vCenter technology or over a web in order to manage your VMs on VMware ESXi host. So with RV Tools, you are able also to get very, very in detailed information about your virtual machines that are hosted by ESX hypervisor. So what are Cloudomize and Moviera? Cloudomize Moviera is also another tool for doing these steps, also doing this inventory assessment reporting tool. But here for this tool from Microsoft is totally free, and customers not paying for this tool when you're assessing your environment and getting reports, the right solution for technology in order to use in Microsoft Azure. But for Cloudomize and Moviera, you need to be subscribed. Paid migration tools, which is available also in some regions. So the first question is, why should I use Cloudomize and Moviera? Despite that I have Map Toolkit, Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. So it depends from environment to environment, from size of environment to other size of environment. So maybe there is a very highly enterprise with lots of thousands of servers on it, because of some features inside Moviera and Cloudomize, which makes them to be a paid migration tools, and they decide to use these migration tools. So this is totally up to the administrator or the managing director team, which decides to move to use which tool. So at the end, all of them gives you the same information. And our fourth tool, DMA or Data Migration Assistant. This is for your databases. Helps you upgrade to a modern data platform by detecting compatibility issues that can impact databases functionality in your new version of SQL Server and Azure SQL databases. So you're using data migration assistant in order to get assistancy assessment reporting tool for your current databases and data that you're having currently in your environment. And the last but not least service that we're having here, the App Service Migration Assistant is designed to simplify your journey to the cloud through a free, simple, and fast solution to migrate ASP.NET, which is designed for developers and programmers to migrate ASP.NET applications from on-premises to the cloud. This part is extra. You can quickly. Okay. So this is also our last tool, which designed for developers in order to push and migrate their ASP.NET based applications to Microsoft Azure. We're coming back to Q&A. Okay. How is access to the application controlled? Through Azure Portal, all the applications and the infrastructure and the resources that you move from your on-premise data center, your on-prem infrastructure to Azure, all of them, as we talked earlier, controlled over a centralized portal from portal.azure.com. How is the other question is how is the application monitored? With the monitoring tools and with the custom monitoring applications. Also, if you're going to use from your local environment that are also available to monitor your application, doesn't matter which application. Also, you can use Azure monitoring tools in order to monitor your machine performance, resources, event logs, errors, and get all the logs that are really necessary for your resources, which are hosted by Microsoft Azure. So I will wait more 1 minute for another question if there are. So then this will be our end of today's session.
I think there are no more questions, Mr. Saleh.
Okay. Thank you. That was an honor to be here yesterday and today for having a presentation. Thank you very much to all the team, University of Lahore and Microsoft student ambassadors for hosting this great event, beautiful, knowledgeable event. And thank you all for joining and have a nice resting day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saleh. That was an amazing session and I loved every second of it. Loved your presentation skills as well as the way you explain services, and we are honored to have you with us. And I hope we've been able to give you every ounce of respect you deserve.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. You too.
Bye-bye.
So that was MVP, Mr. Saleh. Next up is another amazing and special guest of ours, Mr. Viknaraj. Mr. Vignaraj is a senior system engineer at IFS Sri Lanka. He's Microsoft MVP and C# Corner MVP. How crazy is that? Microsoft MCT regional lead, Microsoft MCT, C# Corner chapters lead Sri Lanka, MSc in network engineering, first Tamil version book author about Microsoft Azure technology. Over 17 years of experience in IT. That's like more than half of my age, and worked as the network side for over 11 years, spending most of the time specializing in Microsoft products like several infrastructures, cloud infrastructures, and Office 365 messaging as well as virtualization. Over to you, Mr. McNarras.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I will share my screen now. Okay. Yes. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah, okay. So hi everyone. Today we are going to learn something about Azure inter-site connectivity. So before starting my presentation, thank you for Microsoft, the community in Lahore universities. Okay, so just I'm Vignaraj from Sri Lanka, Microsoft MVP in Azure and Microsoft MCT regional lead. Okay, so our first topic is VNet peering. So inter-site connectivity means how we can connect our Azure to Azure or Azure to some on-premises. So first we can look about VNet peering. So VNet peering or virtual net peering, it's enabled to connect two Azure virtual networks. For an example, if you have two different resource groups, for example, you have one resource group named A and then resource group name like B. So if you want to connect the resource group A to B, so you can create VNet peering. So there are two type of VNet peering. One is regional VNet peering and other one is global VNet peering. So regional VNet peering mean is the same region. For an example, if you have East US, so you have resource group A is in East US and then resource group B also East US. On that time, you can connect the VNet peering that is called regional VNet peering. So the second one is global VNet peering. So global VNet peering means it's a different region. For an example, if your resource group A is located in East US and other one is West US. So when you want to create the connection between resource group A to resource group B, or the region 1 to region 2 or East US to West US, on that time you can create VNet peering. So this is the simple way to connect our resource group resource A to resource B or region to region. Okay, so what is the benefit of VNet peering means? That is private one. So private one means the network traffic between virtual network is private. The traffic between the virtual networks kept the Microsoft backbone network. And other one is, so no public internet or gateway or encryption required to the communication between the virtual network. So that's why some companies, someone like to create the VNet peering. The second one is performance. So performance is high bandwidth connection between resources in different virtual network. And the third one is communication. So it is a different virtual network. So if the one virtual networks are paired, it is automatically connected. And then last one is no disturbance. It's mean we don't need any downtime to create this VNet peering. So this is some benefit or advantages of VNet peering. Okay, and the second one is express route. So in addition, normally when we are connecting our on-prem network to Microsoft Azure. So we are using two kind of connectivities. One is VPN and other one is Express Route. So Express Route, it is also kind of a private network. So normally when we are creating the Express Route, so what we are asking is first we need to create the Express Route circuit in our Azure environment. So nowadays there's some companies, they like to create the Express Route to connect their on-premises network to Microsoft Azure. Some other companies, they like to create the site-to-site VPN to on-premises to Microsoft Azure. Okay, so this Express Route, why we are using the Express Route means it is fast, reliable, and private. So the thing is, when we are creating the Express Route, so on that time we are considering about MPLS and network service provider. So if you want to create the Express Route connection, on that time you should select the service provider. If you don't have any service providers, you can't create the Express Route connection. So Express Route connection is something different between VPN connection. Okay, so other one is VNet to VNet connection. Okay, so now we have VNet peering, Express Route, and third one is VNet to VNet connection. So VNet to VNet connection, it's like VNet to VNet. It's kind of a VPN connection. Normally, when you are creating the VPN connection, on that time you can select so site-to-site VPN or VNet to VNet connection. Okay, so normally when we are creating the VPN connection, we never consider about VNet to VNet connection. So this is also some kind of connection. So we can use IPsec tunnels for communicate between on-premises to our Azure. Okay, so VPN. So VPN means first we are considering about VPN gateway. So VPN gateway is the hot topic of VPN connection. So when you want to create one VPN connection in Microsoft Azure, first you need to create a VPN gateway. So VPN gateway is send encrypted traffic between Azure Virtual Network and an on-premises location over the public internet. Okay. So when we want to create the VPN gateway, normally the VPN gateway, it should take at least 45 minutes to establish this VPN gateway. Okay, right. So this is the VPN sample picture. Actually, my presentation like full and full lab-based session. So the slides are, I think, at least maybe around 10 or 11 slides only, so we can do more lab session in my presentation. Okay, so this is VPN. This is for an example. So we have one on-premises network. In here we can just identify. Here we have this our on-premises area. In my in this on-premises area we have one public IP address. And then we have one private network range. So, okay, so when we are creating the VPN connection, we need to consider about customer public IP address and then customer internal network address. Okay, so this is Microsoft Azure part. Okay, in here we have one VPN network gateway. So in our Microsoft Azure, we have one private network and our VPN gateway public IP address. Okay, so we need to remember the main part is customer public IP address, customer encrypted network or customer private network range. And then when the customer needs to configure the connection, so we need to provide our VPN gateway public IP address and our private network address. Okay, so we have two kind of VPN connection. One is site-to-site VPN connection. Other one is point-to-site VPN connection. Nowadays, we don't consider about point-to-site VPN connection. That is some kind of user VPN. So the most of the companies are using the site-to-site VPN connection. Okay, so the VPN, when we are configuring the VPN connection or VPN gateway connection, we need to consider about the following topics. One is VPN gateway, and then we need to implement the VPN, a site-to-site VPN connection. Also, we need to create the gateway subnet, and then VPN gateway configuration, VPN gateway type. So there are some types, and then VPN gateway SKU and generation, and then local network gateway. Local network gateway being on premises or our customer information, and then configure the on-prem VPN devices. And then we need to create the connection between on-prem to Microsoft Azure. Okay, so this is the VPN gateway configuration. Okay, so when we are creating the VPN part, here we can find. So first we need to assign the name. So our VPN gateway name. For an example, we are creating the site-to-site VPN to Microsoft Azure to University of Lahore. Okay, so the connection name is Azure to University of Lahore. Okay, fine. And the region. So we need to select the region. So regions mean we are hosting our Microsoft Azure resources in East US. So we need to select the region is East US. Okay, so before you create the VPN network connection, you need to consider about the region. Where is your workload is running? So your workload and the Azure resources are running in East US. For an example, if your workloads are running in West US, when you select the East US, on that time you can't identify your virtual network. So definitely you must remember when you are creating any instance in Microsoft Azure, so you need to consider the region. For an example, if you are creating a resource group name University of Lahore, so the region is East US, and then you need to create your instance in East US. If for an example, if you are creating one virtual network in East US, and then you plan to create a virtual machine in West US. So on that time, there are two different regions. So on that time, you can't find the virtual networks. So what Azure is doing on that time, so it will create a new virtual network. So you can find that bracket new and some name. So before you create anything in Microsoft Azure, you need to consider about the region. Okay. Okay, so that is name and the region. And the third part is gateway type. So in here we have two type of gateway. One is VPN, other one is express route. So if you want to create the express route connection, on that time you can select express route. Or otherwise you need to create the VPN connection. So you can select the gateway type is VPN. Okay, so VPN type is okay. And then third one is VPN type. Okay, so in here we have two type of VPN. One is router based and other one is policy based. Okay, so what is the difference between router based or policy based? Router based means routing method. Policy based means it's full and full policy based type VPNs. Okay, for an example, about router based VPN, it's kind of IP forwarding or routing table direct to the packets into their corresponding interface tunnels. For it's kind of IP forward and routing. And the policy based mean, so it's based on the IPsec policy configuration. So we have two kind of virtual network gateway. One is router based. Router based mean IP forwarding. The policy based mean IPsec method. Okay. and then SKU. SKU means normally SKU I think I have, yes, SKU. I will show you some. Okay, so this is SKU one. Okay. So this is router based and policy based, so you can get the idea. From router based mean IP forwarding or routing, and then policy based mean IPsec policies. Okay, so normally Microsoft Azure suggests for router based. Most of the companies are using router based VPN. Okay, so other one is gateway SKU. So in here normally you have basic to G1 and G4. So what is the SKU mean? It's maximum tunnels and then speed. So normally the customers or any other companies, if they need normal connection, or they will request, okay, VPN GW1. Some companies, they need high speed connectivity. So on that time they will suggest us, so we need to create VPN GW4. So it is 5 Gbps or something. And then they can create maximum tunnels. Normally in Microsoft Azure, you can create maximum 30 tunnels. So that is the limit one. So what you can do is, normally when you are creating the VPN gateway, on that time you can ask the customer, so what kind of the speed or throughput. It's like something normal average one, or any 1 Gbps or 2.50, whatever it is, they will apply it for you. Okay, so this is connection throughput. Okay, so in here, okay, right. So that is our SKU and then generation one. Okay, so after selecting this part, and then you need to select the virtual network. So when you are selecting the virtual network, on that time you will find the virtual network gateway range. Okay, and then this is the AS BGP. If you have any BGP, on that time you can enable that one. So otherwise you can disable it. All right. So this is called local network gateway. Local network gateway means our on-premises information. In here, you need to mention the on-premises information, like customer information. So normally local network gateway means on-premises location. So you need to mention the name. So the local network gateway name is University of Lahore, and the IP address means the University of Lahore public IP address. So this is the public, for example, so they are assigning some 33 or something. So this is the public information from the University of Lahore. And then address space means the internal IP address for university. For an example, if they have different address space, for an example 192.168 or 10 series or 172 series, so we can add those series. If they have three kind of different networks like 192 series, 10 series or 172 series, when we add only 192 series, so 192 series network can communicate our Microsoft Azure. On that time 10 series or 172 series, they cannot access our Azure environment. So normally when you are working with IP or VPN side or something, so sometimes customer will raise the case, oh okay, so this location we cannot access the Azure instance or something. So on that time what we are doing is, just we are asking the private network range. On that time they will send us some range, and then we need to add the address space. Okay, so this is full customer information or on-premises information. So IP address means customer public IP address or on-premises public IP address. Address space means on-premises private network. So in here you need to add the network range with prefix. Okay. Okay, so this is, we can configure the on-premises VPN device. So we need to consider about on-premises public IP, encrypted network or private network, and then pre-shared key. Okay, so normally when you are creating the VPN connection, on that time you need to consider about some Microsoft docs. So if the customer have some FortiGate firewall, for an example, FortiGate firewall, and the OS level is very low, something called 5.0 or something, on that time the connection it cannot be established. So on that time you need to aware the customer, so they need to upgrade the OS version, FortiOS version, so then only it will connect. So normally when you are going to the troubleshooting part, on that time you need to consider about customer VPN device and then VPN OS device, so then only you can easily troubleshoot the VPN configurations. Okay, so after creating the VPN gateway and then local network gateway, our last part is connection. So connection means connecting between local network gateway to virtual network gateway. So in here we need to mention Microsoft Azure to University of Lahore. Okay, the connection type. So site-to-site VPN or VNet. VNet to VNet. So we can select, okay, site-to-site VPN. Site-to-site VPN means IPsec VPN. In here we need to select our virtual network and our local network gateway. So local network gateway means customer information, and then virtual network gateway means our virtual network. And then we need to create the pre-shared key. For an example, just we can create ABC123 or something. So after that, when you are creating the VPN connection, and then you need to send the pre-shared key to the customer. So on that time, what we are doing is normally we need to send the pre-shared key where encrypted email. So you can't send the pre-shared key like normal email. So you can put in the subject asterisk encrypt asterisk, and then you can mention pre-shared key, and then you can type, okay, so hi customer, so this is the pre-shared key for a VPN connection, and then you can send it to the customer. So normally any credential you can't send the normal email, you should send the email like encrypted email. So encrypted email means in the subject you can put asterisk encrypt asterisk and then space hyphen. So we pre-shared key for Lahore University or something. Okay, so this is the way to communicate with customer. Okay, so this is VPN local network connection. Okay, so now what we can do is we can create a lab session. Okay, so this is my Azure portal. Okay, here I have several resource group. Okay, so okay, fine. So we can open one resource group, name is management. Okay, so in the management resource group, here you can find there are several instances. I have one virtual machine. For this virtual machine, I have one private IP for this virtual machine, and then this is network security group NSG. And in here I have already create one virtual network gateway. So I will show you how to create one virtual network gateway. So my location is West US. Okay, so I'm going to click add. Okay, so I want to create virtual network gateway. Okay, so this is virtual network gateway. So it will take around 45 minutes. Okay, so create. Okay, so now you need to select the subscription. So I have 2 subscriptions, so I can choose this pay as you go subscription, and then we need to create the name for our virtual network gateway, and then you need to select the region. So in here I have choose South US. So I'm going to find my virtual network. So I don't have any virtual networks in here. Okay, so if I type West US, so I can find my management VNet. Okay, so in here you can mention your name and then region and the type, VPN type, and then router based or VPN or express route, and then you need to select your virtual network. It's already used. Okay, and then here you can create, you need to create one public IP address for this virtual network gateway. Or if you have already, if you create one public IP address, and on that time you can use existing public IP address. So if you have already created one public IP address, so otherwise you can create one new public IP address and then just you can create it. Okay. All right. So in my environment, I have already created one virtual network gateway. So I'm going to click this virtual network gateway. Okay, so this is my public IP address information. Okay, so if the customer want to configure the site-to-site VPN connection, so we need to provide this information. Hey customer, so this is my public IP address. Okay, so in our notepad, so this is our management information public IP. Okay, so this is the public IP address for our management network. Okay, and then I need to send our private network range. So private network range means our virtual network. So just I can click this one. In here you can find this is VPN GW1, gateway type is VPN, and then VPN type is router based. Okay, so I'm going to click this virtual network. So in here I can find the address space. Okay, just copy this address space. Okay, so this is our internal network. Okay, fine. In the internal network, you can find one settings called subnets. So in here we have two subnets. So this is for gateway, our VPN gateway, and then this is our internal network or something. So when you are creating any VMs or virtual machines, so it will automatically pick from this range. Okay, fine. Okay, so we have this is our Microsoft Azure instance details. So we have public IP address and other one is our internal network address. Okay, right. In here I have another resource group named DR site. So this DR site also have one virtual network gateway. So I am going to select this virtual network for in our demo session. So I don't have any on-premises network. So what I can do is, so I have two different resource group in different region. So I'm going to create one VPN connection, site-to-site VPN connection between DR resource group to our management resource group. In this time, even you can create VNet to VNet peering or VNet peering or VPN connection. So just we can create one VPN connection. Okay, so what I need to create the VPN gateway, local network gateway, I need the customer private network range and the customer public IP address. Okay, so in here we have two scenario. One is management and second one is DR. Okay, so disaster recovery site. Okay, so disaster recovery site, so I can get this public IP address. Okay, so this is public IP address and this is the internal network. Okay, fine. So now I have our on-premises. Okay, so this is like our on-prem, or this is customer information. Okay, so now customer provide us their public IP address and the private network range. Okay, right, now we are going to create one local network gateway. Okay, so my resource group and the management resource group. So add local network gateway. So local network gateway. Right. So name is local network gateway. Okay, in here we need to add our customer information or our another on-premises information. In here I can mention this IP address. Okay, and then address space. So these are the address. They have only one address space, so I can add this. If they have more than, even if they have 10 series or any other IP range, we can add it here. Okay, so this is okay, and the location is West US. Okay, so now we can create the customer information. So we have already created one VPN network gateway, and now we are creating the local network gateway. Okay, so local network gateway means customer information. Okay, right. Okay, so the customer information is created. So just I can click this, go to resource. Okay, so in here you can find this is 168.62 series. Okay, so 168.62 series is DR information. We are in the management side. Okay, right. Okay, so I'm going to click my home and then I can visit this DR side. Okay, so we can select the DR2 management. So in here you can find 137, 135 is our management information, and this is our management private network range. Okay, right. So now we need to create one connection. So in here they have already created one connection, so I just remove this. Delete. Okay, what we are going to do is first we can go to our management network. It's like our Azure part. Okay, so we are in the management network, and here you can find this connection. So I'm going to click the connections. Now I'm going to create the connection between management to on premises or management to any other location. Okay, so I'm going to add this one. So I need to create the connection name. So connection name is MGMT to DR. Okay, so management to customer or any other location. Okay, so the connection type is IPsec VPN, and here we need to select our virtual network. Okay, so it is already connected. Wait, I need to remove this one. Okay, everything is removed. Yes. Okay, so the DR. Okay, so first DR to management connection. It's working. Still loading. Right. Okay, so this is DR to team management. Okay, so I have, this is my DR gateway. So local network gateway is okay. Now I need to create one pre-shared key. Just we can assign ASD at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is our pre-shared key. So just click OK. Okay, connection created. Okay, so the connection status is unknown and the data in and out is 0, and here we can find our virtual network and the customer information. 168 is the customer information, and the local network 137. Okay, so just we can select these properties. provisioning is success, but status is unknown mean. So we need to set up the connection to other side also. Okay, so now we are in the management part. Okay, so we are in the DR side. Okay, so I'm going to select my management. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so where is our local network gateway? Local network gateway. Okay, right. Gateway, then right. So this is our DR side information. Okay, it's created. Okay, so I'm going to create one connection. Okay, so this is MGMT to R. So I'm going to select my virtual network connection management gateway, and the pre-shared key is ASD at 1 2 3 4 5 6. Then okay. Okay, so connection is created. Okay, same, it's unknown. Okay, provision is success and status is unknown. It will take a few minutes to up this connection. On that time, what we can do is just we can go to our resource group, and then we can access one VM. So download this VM, and then just we can so okay, so this is management network. In DR site, we can get one private public IP or anything. Yeah. Okay, so we can ping 10.0.0.4. Okay. Okay, the status is connected. Okay, success and connected. So at the moment, we don't have any data in and out. Okay, so we can check our management. The connection still not connected. Okay, so it's updated. Provisioning success. Okay, so in your local network gateway, if you want to add or if you want to modify the customer public IP address or customer network address, for an example, if the customer change their public IP address, on that time what you can do is just go to this configuration, and here you can change the customer public IP address. Or if the customer have different network range, for an example 172 series, so you can add 172.16.0.0 /16 or something, or customer have some other network 192.168 8.0.0/24 or something, so you can add it and then you can save it. So in this customer have different type of network range, so we have 10 series, 172 series, and 168 series. Okay, so but this is the public IP address for the customer. So if you want to change the public IP address, so just go to this, select the local network configuration or local network gateway, and then go to this configuration, and then you can find the existing IP address, or in replace the IP address, just save it. Okay, it will take few minutes to save these configurations. Okay, right here it's properties. Yeah, it's not up. Okay, so we can check our DR side, local network. Okay, so it's connected. Okay, still it's updating. Okay. Okay, now it's connected. Now here we can find there is out. So now what we can do is we can download, this is our management one. Yes, so we can download our DR site VM, and then we can actually what you need to do is when you are creating the VPN connection, on that time just you need to send some packets. So you need to ping your Microsoft Azure to customer side. Okay, so just we can download this RDP. Okay, so download and connect. So I need management site VM private IP address, so 10.1.0.4. Okay. Right. Okay, so this is management one's up, connection is up, and then DR side. Yeah, it's data in. Okay, so it's started to connect. Okay, so if you have any kind of issues, for an example, so VPN connection issue or something, sometimes customer will complain that there are some drop packets or something on that time. So first you need to consider about customer encrypted network or customer private network range. So you need to verify that private network range, and then you need to find the pre-shared key. In here you can find the shared key, pre-shared key. Under the connection, in the connection you can find the shared key, also you can find the pre-shared key, so you can verify the pre-shared key, is the pre-shared key is correct or not. This is the configuration. So this is IKE version 2. If you want to enable the BGP, on that time you can just select enable BGP. Okay, so still if you are facing the same issue, on that time what you can do is you can reset the VPN connection. So I'm going to show you how to reset the VPN connection. Okay, so I'm going to this DR side. Okay, here we have our virtual network gateway. So I'm going to select this virtual network gateway. In here you can find this is resource health. Resource health mean if you have any kind of issue or if anything goes down or something, it's anything went down, on that time you can find the resource health. For an example, sometimes the customer will call you, hey, we can't access our VM within particular minutes or something, so that is down. Or if it is down, on what you can do is just you can go to the resource health and then you can find if it's down or not. So if sometimes you can get unavailable. So unavailable means sometimes unexpectedly reboot or something. So it is still unavailable, on that time you can create the support ticket. So if the system down, on that time you can create a support ticket A, or if the system is up but you need the proper reason or you need the RCA, root cause analysis or something, on that time you can create the B ticket. Okay, so here what we are going to do is the customer facing the same issues, even they can't connect properly in their on-premises network to Microsoft Azure. So what we are going to do is we are going to reset our VPN network gateway. So just you can select this VPN network connection, and then under the support plus troubleshooting you can find the reset. So just click this reset. So it will take around maximum 15 minutes to reset. So in here you don't want to worry about the connection, so we need to recreate the connection or something. So just what we are doing is just we are resetting the virtual network gateway. So if you reset the virtual network gateway, normally the issue will resolve. So otherwise you need to create the Microsoft ticket. Okay, so even I will show you how to create the Microsoft support ticket. So just go to this new support request. Okay, so you need to describe the issue. For an example, so what we can do is just we can select our VM. And then we have one issue. So here we can check the resource health. So it is active. Okay, so health announce, I think that is nothing. Okay, and okay, so just we are going to create one request. Okay, so we need a technical issue, yes, or billing or anything. So we face one technical issue. Okay, so the service type is my service. Okay, so the virtual machine running Windows, yes, resource is okay. So in here we need to add the summary in few words about what is the issue. For an example, system down. Okay, so my problem is system down. Okay, so problem type. So I can't connect to my VM. So because system down, or any other performance issue or whatever it is, or otherwise you can select VM restarted or stops unexpectedly. Okay, so just you can select this one. Okay, and then you can, I need RCA, so statement. Okay, and then okay, so the solutions, so solutions mean, so they are providing some solutions before raise the ticket. So I don't okay, so I don't want this solution, so I need to raise the ticket. Okay, in here you need to mention the case information. In here you can find the severity. Severity actually the subscription is sponsored subscription. So my case severity is only C. So if you have enterprise subscription, so severity A and severity B and severity C. Okay, severity A means system down. So Microsoft, they will contact you within a 1 hour, maximum 1 hour. Within a 1 hour they will directly contact you. Or the B is within a 4 hours. Yes, maximum within a, even normally in the Microsoft, normally they will contact you even 1 hour. And then you can select the option called chat. They need to chat or email or phone support or business hours. So if you are choosing the A severity means then they will contact you within a half an hour, maximum 1 hour. So that is the queue is going to 24/7. Okay, so that is directly phone, over the phone or email, you can select it. And then you need to mention your information and the phone number and then country, and then you can create a ticket. Okay, so this is the way if you are facing any kind of issue in Microsoft Azure, just you can raise the ticket to Microsoft Azure. Okay, so still resetting the virtual network. Okay, so we don't want to create any ticket. Okay, so just we can find our connection. Yes. Now we have in and out. It's mean our VPN connection is up and running without any issue. Okay. So this is site-to-site VPN. So also I will show you how to create the express route configuration. Okay, but we can't create the express route configuration because I don't have any service provider, but I will show you how to create the express route connection. Okay, so in the DR side, so this is I think this is okay, so subscription is past subscription. Okay, so I will select my pay-as-you-go subscription. Okay, right, so I'm going to select express route circuit. Okay, so this is express route. Okay, right, my West US. Okay, so this is my MGMTER express route. Okay, so the configurations. Okay, so in the configuration part, so you need to select the port type, so provider or direct. So you should select the provider, and then we need to create one new connection, and then you need to select the provider. Okay, so these are the providers, so express route providers. So you need to create the provider. So just okay, so we can select Verizon. Okay, so and then you need to select your peering location. So we are in just we can select Washington DC, and then we need to select the bandwidth. So normally 50 Mbps, some customers or someone request they need more high-speed network. So high-speed connectivity means we need to select 1 Gbps or something. So we can select just 100 Mbps connectivity, and then this one is SKU is standard version, and then billing mode is metered, not unlimited. Normally we are using metered. Okay, then we can create it. Okay, Okay, so we are creating one express route connection. Okay, so another example, if our customer already have one express route configuration or ER circuit, what they are requesting us, so you don't want to a Microsoft Azure team, so you don't want to create any express circuit in your environment. You just create one VPN network gateway. On that time you can select not VPN, you can select express route. Here we can find that one also, so I will show you. So when you are creating the okay, so DSite. Okay, so when we are creating the virtual network gateway, I will show you. Here you can select express route. So you can these virtual network gateway for express route. So on that time you can select I'm going to create express route, not VPN. Okay, so I'm going to select this one and then this is the express route. Okay, so this is SUS. US. Okay, yeah, we have one virtual network, we can use it. Yes, so this is for express route. Okay, so this is ERPUB IP, express route public IP. Okay, so just create. This is another way. There are several ways to create the connection between on-prem to Microsoft Azure. So first one is site-to-site VPN, and then other one is express route. Mean you can create one express route virtual network gateway, and then you can create the connection, or you can create the express route circuit, and then you can share the information to a customer. Okay, so now okay, so express route is connected, so just go to the resource. Okay, so this is our express route circuit, so I'm going to select this express route circuit. Okay, okay, so I want to send the information, so I want to send the service key information to the customer. So when we are creating the express route, on that time we need to send the service key to the customer. Okay, so we can create one connection. Okay, so actually at the moment we can't create the connection because our connection is not provisioned. It's mean the service provider, we need to send the service key to our service provider. If the service provider applied this service key, then only it will provision. So connection is normally the connection is connected or something, but it's not provisioning. When it is provisioned, then only you can create the connection. Otherwise, you can't create the connection. So this is express route circuit. Okay, now we are creating one other uh, virtual network gateway connection. On that virtual network connection, just we can go to the connection and then we can create one express route connection. On that time also we need to mention the service key. So when we are adding the service key, and then we can establish the connection. Okay, so this is inter-site connectivity method. Okay, so I think, yeah, I have planned only 1 hour. So if you have any questions, and then you can ask me. Okay, yes. Any questions? Yes, Iqbal is there. Iqbal is contact me. Yes. If there is any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can finish our session. Iqbal?
Yes, sir. I'll share some questions in your chat box, team chat
Ah,
box.
okay. Right. Yes, okay. Oh, fine. Okay. Right. Okay, so one question for application or environment. Okay, so I can explain in my experience. So it's apart from the theory or something. So what I'm doing or what we are doing is, if you want to access the environment or any infrastructure related, on that time we are creating the VPN connection. Or if we are using any application, for an example, some kind of, if we are hosting some applications in Microsoft Azure, on that time what we are doing is we are creating some kind of reverse proxy. Reverse proxy means it's kind of a method to access Microsoft Azure instance. For on that time we are creating application security policy, not network security policy. Normally in Microsoft Azure we have two kind of policies. One is NSG, network security group, and other one is ASG, application security group. So NSG for infrastructure part. So if you have any VM, or if you plan to create some applications into that VM, so on that time we are considering about NSG, network security group. Or if we want to host an application, or if we have one VM and we need to create some kind of web-based application, so on that time we are considering about uh, application security policy group. So application NSG means it's kind of reverse proxy part, so you can access anywhere, so it is public accessible. So the VPN means it's like a private part. So if the environments mean you can use VPN, so applications mean you can use reverse proxies. Okay, yes, you can download the configurations. I will show you how to download the configuration. Normally the custom, sometimes you can get some tickets like customer. Actually, if you are configuring the I think I want to check if I have some FortiGate, so I will show you how to download. Otherwise just we can go to this DIA site, and then okay, so this is our connection. Okay, so in here just we can download the configuration. In the download configuration you can find the device vendor. For an example, if you are using Cisco, so you can select Cisco, and then you need to select the device family. So most of the companies, they are using Cisco ISR. Also you can select the Cisco ISR, and then you can select the firmware version, and then just you can download the configuration, and then you can send this configuration to a customer. Okay, so downloading method is very simple. Just go to the connection and then download the configuration. That's all. Normally Microsoft Azure is very easy to handle, and then you can get the job very easily. If you have even basic certification, Microsoft Azure administration certification, you can get more jobs. You know, nowadays in app workers, yes, I'm always getting Microsoft 365 based works and Azure site works. So normally if you have certification, and then if you update your LinkedIn clearly, and then you can get more job opportunities. So this is my personal experience. I'm always getting several opportunities from several places. So simply you can get the job if you have Microsoft certificates. You can download. Okay, so this is site-to-site VPN means private. It's kind of, if you have one site in Pakistan or your university and other one is in Sri Lanka, so if we want to create the connectivity on that time, so you need to create the site-to-site VPN. Okay, go support. Yes, VPN support automates creation. Yes, nowadays, you know, in In what we are doing is we don't consider about manual. So now most of the companies are using Terraforms to create some instance. Even DCS also you can create it, or even if you have PowerShell script, you can run the PowerShell script. Yeah. Re-encrypt mean decrypt. Sorry, not about the, I can't say that one. Yeah, it's possible, but not at this time. Okay. Free VPN server. Sorry, I am normally, if you have Microsoft Azure account, normally you can get free subscription in 1 month, or otherwise, if you are a student, you can request for Microsoft Azure account. So you can use some up to 50 free instance. You can create the free instance and you can test it. First, you need to create one Microsoft free account. I think they will charge only $1 and then you can test it. It's not a big issue. So free. Okay, so free. Yeah, my email address. Just you can type say my name viknaraj@hotmail.com. So you can send me the email. So I'm happy to share the details. Okay, so and other thing is I can announce you one thing. Nowadays Microsoft Contact, there are several free programs like Azure Fundamental Training. If you are participate that training, on that time you can get the free voucher for AZ 900 exam. So you can do the exam without any payment. And other thing is, in earlier we need to visit the exam center or something. Nowadays you can do your exam at home or office, so that is also possible. So if you are a university student, you have discounts more than 50% discount for the exam. So for an example, if the exam fees is $80 or something, on if you are a university student, I think you can get $44 or something for the exam. So and if you have certifications, and then you can apply for the nice jobs. Nowadays there are several jobs for working from home, so you can get the job easily if you have Microsoft certification. Because now I am doing one freelancer project for migrating AWS to Azure. So there are several opportunities in Microsoft Azure. Even you can find the free free jobs in AppWorks also. Okay, right. Okay, so I will type my email viknaraj@hotmail.com. Okay, so this is my email, and if you have any question, you can send me the email, so I am happy to answer you. Okay, so who is the hosting person?
Thank you, Mr. Viknaraj. I am hosting.
Oh, fine. You're also in Pakistan, so you are a student of
Pakistan. I am a student of University of Lahore.
Oh, fine. Very good. Very good. Very good. So you are in the internship or still third year or something?
I'm freelancing in third year.
Ah, fine. Okay. So very nice program. And actually, where is Iqbal?
I think he's listening to you right now.
Okay, fine. Actually, he's contact me in my Facebook. Yes, okay. So I think we can finish the program. Yes, thank you for this opportunity to University of Lahore and the team.
Thank you very much, Mr. Viknaraj. We really thank you with our heart that you came into our bootcamp and gave us such amazing presentations and taught us about services. It's been great, and I hope we've been able to give you every ounce of respect you deserve.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was great having you with us.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was our last special guest for this amazing bootcamp. Now, before ending the bootcamp, I would like to share a few words from our community and president. This was, as you know, the first ever virtual bootcamp held by a Pakistani community. The participation was crazy hot, and it was more than virtual bootcamp. It was the first ever, more than we thought we will ever get, which makes this not the first bootcamp, but one of the many. to come in the near future. There are going to be a lot of bootcamps now from our community, inshallah. There's going to be a lot of these sessions in near future as well. So stay tuned with us. And during these 4 days of immense knowledge sharing and practicing, I'm sure that I learned a lot about cloud computing, and I hope that all of you guys did as well. We as a community, thank you all for joining us. It has been a great honor being here with all these amazing trainers and experts. My name is Muhammad Salman Nasir, and this will be all from my side. Thank you very much for bearing with me all this time. You've been a great audience. Adios.
The opportunity for us as developers to have broad, deep impact on all parts of society and all parts of economy has never been greater. AI is everywhere. A new world that is going to be made up of an intelligent cloud and an intelligent edge. It's about celebrating what you can do with that technology to have broad impact. It's about empowering every developer.